Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and in this episode of Extra Credit, I'm going to be digging a bit deeper into the links that I provided, specifically on the FTC, for my video looking at ways in which Joe Biden's presidency might have got off to a better foot than many people had realized. And a big part of that thesis was centering around the FTC and the National Labor Relations Board. But actually, both of these agencies have done so much stuff that it's really hard to talk about them in the same video. Now, this isn't going to be a comprehensive look at everything that the FTC has done since the Biden administration started. In fact, it's going to have a pretty heavy recency bias, focusing a lot more on basically just the things that have happened or developed over the last month. No doubt, this is a very short list of things that the FTC has done since kind of revamping themselves. But don't think that they've been going this hard at it since the very beginning. It did take some time to kind of reclaim elements of this agency from neoliberal standards. And that is absolutely going to become important and a recurring theme within a lot of the sources that I'm going to be reading from. But the first, and the one that I parked here on, is Matt Stoller speaking on Breaking Points, doing a really excellent look at how they are going after really his big concern, which is huge monopolistic merger-heavy businesses. And he really praises the antitrust here and their intentions to expand that. And at the end, there's a call to action in which the FTC is having a public comment near the time that this video is being published. So he calls on people to respond to that with how they feel about antitrust legislation and what it should look like, in addition to how modern monopolies affect them. And hundreds of people did. And this is compared to the 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 corporate lawyers or lobbyists or whatever that usually comment on these things. And if anything, we need less regulation, yada, 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 yada. That typical bullshit was overwhelmed by hundreds of real Americans telling them how they really felt. And before I get too far into this video and absolutely lose anybody, I want you to know that you have a similar opportunity right now, because I'm recording this the day after the FTC had a public meeting where they explained and allowed public comment and answered questions on their moves in relation to data privacy, which is something that we're going to talk about extensively. It is the bulk of this video, that type of policy. And what you should know is that even though that happened yesterday, and even though you may not be watching this, you're definitely not watching it the same day that I'm recording it, you still have a lot of time to be able to leave a written public comment. And good googly moogly, so many people have already. Show your support. If tightening down on companies like Meta and Alphabet and all of these big data companies like Amazon and all of these monopolies, again, like Amazon and Meta, if you really want to rein that kind of stuff in, now is your time to talk about it and explain your issue. And I'm going to go through actually public comments, some of the recent ones, and we're going to read them. And let me spoiler alert, like, I thought that some of them are kind of hard to read, honestly. Some of the shorter ones, let's be real. But like the longer and more thought out comments that I read were remarkable and really added to this video. So absolutely, this is a call to action as well. Be sure to leave your comments on how the FTC should regulate big data and your personal privacy. Go ahead and do this. You have until, I believe, October 22nd. So get your opinions in there. And can we make this number go over 1 million? Let's really show them that we care, okay? And I would say that, while a lot of people ask, like, where are they getting the authority to do this? Or trying to claim that they're not doing this for the interests of consumers. The consumers very clearly gave them a mandate. They very clearly established their interests through that public comment. And I think that the FTC is right to act under that mandate. So, with that out of the way, and just commenting on the fact that even though it's only been seen by 54,000 people, or 54,000 times today, even months after it's been published, many of those people did something really impactful that I think shapes a lot of the rest of the story. So I didn't want that to go unsaid, because it's not something that is often acknowledged, and it's not something you'll see acknowledged in any of my sources, even though it's very much a thing that happened and goes a long way to explaining their mandate to behave in exactly the way that they are. So let's move first to one of my two opinion pieces from the Hill. This particular opinion piece is by Jordan Crenshaw, Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Technology Engagement Center. Right? So this guy is going to be talking about data policy. And I want you to remember that. This is all about your data privacy. When Lina Khan took over as the chair of the Federal Trade Commission last year, she described her vision for the agency as shaping the distribution of power and opportunity across our economy. Based. Wait. Shit, I read that wrong. Sorry. Based on the FTC's most recent move to impose a national data privacy regime. Funny how, we started talking about, Saddam Hussein's regime, things like that. Talking about terrorist empires in the Middle East. Or brutal dictators. Now it's, can you believe that they would give you national data privacy? It's such a regime. It seems the agency doesn't intend for its powers to be constrained by Congress or the Supreme Court. And yes, to a certain degree, they may be acting outside of their bounds here. This man provides a certain amount of evidence for that in this, which I am going to be skipping over. And you know what? If all of this is true, I'm perfectly happy with the FTC doing it anyways, and they can be challenged by what we've already seen as a quite activist Supreme Court. Go for it. If you think this isn't within their legal powers, sue them. Because plenty of the companies that they are suing right now are countersuing. So, if there's any validity to this, we'll fucking see. But I want to focus on his argument, because we've already covered a couple pieces of it so far. Perhaps Khan thinks that the authority of the FTC to impose a national data privacy and security regulation is a gray area subject to interpretation. I think that's kind of what's happening. I don't actually even think that she sees it much as a gray area. I think she sees it as the agency's duty, like a duty that it has abdicated since the 1990s, especially when it comes to antitrust. But the major monopolies of, data brokers that are happening right now, especially, and look, I want to say, this in comparison, this speculation in comparison to the actual news that we're going to talk about, because we're going to talk about a data broker that they're going after here in just a moment. But with this guy especially, I think it's helpful to take a look at what he thinks could go wrong. What harm could come from the FTC attempting to regulate data privacy? Most Americans today enjoy the benefits of customer loyalty programs, earning discounts or other rewards based on their shopping history. These programs rely on the use of customer data. When California passed its original data privacy bill, the anti-discrimination provisions essentially outlawed loyalty programs. The legislature has had to revisit the issue, but legal uncertainty remains. And I got a couple points for this. It seems like I know that this idea has expanded. There are apps that do this perhaps much more effectively than the cards ever did, and that there has been innovation in this. But we're essentially talking about your Food Lion MVP card or that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure that this idea is older than the flip phone. This is certainly not like the most relevant example that one could cite related to the way that actual data works today, which I'm sure that all of these businesses that you champion at the Technology Engagement Center, I'm sure they make a lot of money off of the more dirty things here, not customer loyalty programs. One point that I would also like to make about a customer loyalty program, if it is actually a customer loyalty program, it doesn't actually require that the company collect data on the consumer. I mean, that is only if you intend to profit off of the consumer in a way that you are not properly compensating them for, meaning that the customer loyalty program incentivizes you through additional profits, through the monetization of user data. Have you ever considered that a real customer loyalty program that was actually intended to benefit a customer would be something like a punch card program, like where your 10th visit you get a discount or something? That is so easy and requires absolutely no tracking of customer data while still providing the same incentives to continue shopping at a location and providing you some sort of a benefit for having been loyal to this company to begin with, instead of it just being a way for them to buy your data from you for actually less than it's worth. And then he moves on to this, like, regulations intended to hit big businesses often boomerang on small businesses. Yeah, sometimes poorly written legislation can actually be detrimental to small businesses in ways that it isn't detrimental to larger businesses. But this is basically the exact opposite of that. This is more targeting big businesses. And again, a lot of this, wait, let me see if he ever actually gets into. Yeah, this is just all speculation based on what he thinks is going to happen. We'll get into some more recent stuff later on and actual applications of this. This dude, also in the Hill opinion section, let's see what his specialty is. Federal Affairs Manager for the Americans for Tax Reform and Executive Director of the Open Competition Center. So, might have some skin in this game too. The FTC has released a playbook for how the agency will expand its power over the American economy. FTC Chair Lina Khan has aggressively pursued a hyper-regulatory agenda since her bait-and-switch confirmation last summer. Lawmakers should conduct robust oversight hearings to determine just how far the agency has strayed from its statutory authority under Khan's leadership. Late last week, the FTC released its updated strategy for financial year 2022 to 2026, after months of deliberation. For decades, the FTC... Hold on. 4 decades. How many decades do you think that is? Just hearing the words 4 decades. Maybe 4 decades? Maybe 3? Are you thinking 2? Are you thinking possibly 16 years? No, you wouldn't think that when you hear 4 decades, right? For decades, the FTC has pledged to police harmful business practices without unduly burdening legitimate business activity. That clause, present in every strategic plan since 2006, 16 years ago, and originally articulated, that means someone said it. Someone said this once in 1997, is absent without explanation in Khan's plan. The clause's omission signals that Khan's FTC will target legitimate business activity. No, it doesn't. Not even with what you said. It indicates that they may not worry about burdening legitimate business activity. In other words, if taking down a corrupt market happens to impact the market in such a way that it hurts businesses that are legally operating because there was like a pyramid scheme operating amongst them, well, I think that's kind of an unreasonable standard for determining whether someone should be able to even articulate a case. For the past half century, yeah, more or less, business conduct is generally not considered an antitrust violation until it demonstrably harms consumers. And that is a problem. A legal test known as the Consumer Welfare Standard, which is not a good standard to use, especially in the modern era. Like, even if it was decent when it was first proposed, it just doesn't apply to the type of horizontal monopolies that we tend to see in markets today. The consumer welfare standard constrains the government from launching antitrust suits against companies for political reasons. Or at least so this guy says. I mean, it really constrains the government from launching antitrust suits against companies for a lot of reasons if they have to consider all of these other factors as well. This guy actually does bring in a current example of what is happening in this particular area. Scrutinizing the strategic plan is not an academic exercise, as Khan is currently pursuing cases that stretch the bounds of antitrust law. The FTC recently challenged Meta's acquisition of Within, a virtual reality fitness app developer, in a case that is flimsy at best and meritless at worst. The FTC voted 3-2 along party lines to sue Meta, overruling career FTC staff that recommend against bringing the case. Now, you might be wondering, like, so this thing is separate from this thing, right? Like, some staff came forward and they were like, no, we can't do this. And Lena Khan was just like, aha, I outrank you. Fuck off! That's kind of the impression that you would get from that. Kind of. And then there's also... I need to quit opening this article. It's going to go against all my free access. FTC's Khan overruled staff to sue Meta. Commission voted 3-2 against Meta's pursuit of VR fitness app. And I'm going to save you the time of like me scrolling through this website to show you. But this title is talking about specifically this. The people overruled are the two people who voted against. I'm sorry. I guess voted for? They were in the opposition. And yes, technically, they were overruled, because that's how voting works. If we have a bill past the Senate with like 52 or 54 people out of 100, we call it bipartisan. We don't say that fucking 48 people were overruled by this decision. It's just a stupid way to think about it. So let's get... well, we're still on Bloomberg, actually, but let's look a little bit more at data privacy and FTC's kind of new rules. Industry and consumer representatives will weigh in at an event on Thursday on potential new FTC rules governing the data collection that drives personalized advertisements online. The agency's public forum is part of its recently launched effort to regulate what it's dubbed commercial surveillance by businesses such as Alphabet, formerly Google, Meta, formerly Facebook, that gather information about people's use of apps and websites, often for the purposes of targeting ads. The rules would also set standards for how data must be secured. The event is one of many steps in a lengthy rulemaking process that's already stirring political tensions among commissioners on the 5-member Democrat-led panel. The same is true in Congress, where lawmakers remain divided over a pending bill to oversee consumer data use amongst sectors. States, also led by California, have adopted their own data protections, complicating the compliance regime for companies that handle personal information. The consumer data rulemaking dovetails with FTC Chair Lena Khan's broader bid to rein in big tech's companies' market power with tougher antitrust enforcement. In writing new rules on data protection, the Commission would have to balance the costs and benefits of regulating companies' use of information about consumers, which could have implications for competition. Which sounds kind of threatening in a way, but really it isn't, especially since this is, within the scope of antitrust, which, proper antitrust enforcement makes things more competitive. So unlike our last guy who was claiming that, our small businesses are going to be affected by this, what is actually happening here would probably make it easier for mom and pop data shops. I don't know. I mean, I guess they would I guess the limiting factor would probably be the amount of security that they would mandate that they would have to practice with your information, which I guess means that anyone who's collecting data on their consumers would have to make enough money to be able to hire competent security, which by all means would be an improvement in the industry. Okay, so let's move on to a more specific case. The Federal Trade Commission sued data broker Kokava for allegedly selling information that would allow individuals' whereabouts to be traced to sensitive locations. The agency claimed that it was possible to use the information to trace consumers to reproductive health clinics, domestic violence shelters, and places of worship, among other places. The lawsuit builds on the agency's focus on commercial surveillance after announcing earlier this month that it will be exploring new rules to crack down on harmful instances of the practice. So, this is kind of like the big example that everyone's going to about this in terms of going after a specific company. The Federal Trade Commission filed its suit against Idaho-based data broker Kochava on Monday, alleging that it sold location data from hundreds of millions of mobile devices that could have been used to track individuals' movements from places including reproductive health clinics, domestic violence shelters, and places of worship. Using data collected on mobile devices and combining it with public map programs, the FTC found it was possible to infer the identity of the device owner by linking those devices to sensitive locations and tracing them back to single-family homes. The agency claimed that until at least June of this year, Kochava would grant users access to a sample dataset of time-stamped information from 61 million unique mobile devices with relatively little effort required by the user seeking access to the data. That is pretty fucking troubling. Who gets to know where you are? The question is at the heart of a new lawsuit by the US FTC against a little-known Idaho-based ad tech company Kochava, which regulators accused of unfairly selling the timestamp location information to millions of Americans. But before government lawyers could file suit last week, the company sued the FTC, claiming the agency's structure unconstitutional and claiming that their company broke no laws. The back and forth has set up a showdown that could shape the future of our location privacy. Kochava helps marketers measure ad performance and runs a data exchange that sells location data to other ad tech companies. The FTC, which is responsible for protecting consumers, says the data, easily de-anonymized, could allow unscrupulous actors to track people's mobile devices to places of worship, military bases, and other sensitive locations like therapists' office, addiction recovery centers, medical facilities, and women's reproductive health clinics. The agency says that until recently it didn't take much effort to obtain a data sample. Yep, I already talked about that. Regulators say that this data could put people at risk of stigma, discrimination, physical violence, emotional distress, and other harms, and ask that the company stop selling that data and delete what it still has. The lawsuit, filed on August 29th, is part of a broader push for stronger limits on personal data under FTC Commissioner Lina Khan. In July, the agency said it would crack down on efforts to stop the illegal sharing of health data in the wake of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade and an executive order by Biden to protect reproductive rights. Last month, it began seeking public comment for a set of new rules on commercial surveillance. The agency will hold a public livestream forum on the issue today. The rules could ultimately be superseded by a new bipartisan federal privacy bill, the American Data Privacy and Protection Act. But Khan has called the rulemaking an important step if that doesn't happen. So, essentially, I think she kind of sees herself as a backup plan on this, just in case. Certainly what it sounds like there. So this is what that previous one linked to. Among the most sensitive categories of data collected by connected devices are a person's precise location and information about their health. Smartphones, connected cars, wearables, fitness trackers, smart home products, and even the browser you're reading this on are capable of directly observing and deriving sensitive information about users. Standing alone, these data points may pose an incalculable risk to personal privacy. Now consider the unprecedented intrusion when these connected devices and technology companies that collect the data combine it and sell it or monetize it. This isn't the stuff of dystopian fiction, it is a question that consumers are asking right now. The conversation about technology tends to focus on benefits, but there are behind-the-scenes irony that needs to be examined in the open. The extent to which highly personal information that people choose not to disclose even to family, friends, or colleagues is actually shared with complete strangers. These strangers participate in the often shadowy ad tech and data broker ecosystem where companies have a profit motive to share data at unprecedented scale and granularity. When customers use their connected devices, and sometimes even when they don't, these devices may be regularly pinging cell towers, interacting with Wi-Fi networks, capturing GPS signals, and otherwise creating a comprehensive record of their whereabouts. This location data can reveal a lot about people, including where we work, sleep, socialize, worship, and seek medical treatment. Many consumers may happily offer their location data in exchange for real-time crowdsourced advice on the fastest route home, which they may think differently about having their thinly disguised online identity associate with the frequency of their visits to a therapist or a cancer doctor. The concerns that many have expressed about the risk of misuse are more than just theoretical. In 2017, for example, the Massachusetts Attorney General reached a settlement with marketing company Copley Advertising and its principle for using location technology to identify when people crossed a secret digital fence near a clinic offering abortion services. Based on that data, the company sent targeted ads to their phones with links to websites with alternatives about abortion. The Massachusetts Attorney General asserted that the practice violated state consumer protection law. And just recently, the FTC reached a settlement with FEO Health, alleging the company shared with third parties, including Google and Facebook, sensitive health information about women collected from its period and fertility tracking app, despite promising to keep this information private. So you can see, when we're talking about data privacy, these are the kinds of things that we're talking about. But let's go even further. Another FTC article. This one's going to give us a bit more context about the Meta within issue, which is something that I brought up a bit earlier in this video. The Federal Trade Commission is seeking to block virtual reality giant Meta and its controlling shareholder and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, although my understanding is that he's actually been removed from this lawsuit since this was published. Anyways, from requiring Within Unlimited and its popular virtual reality dedicated fitness app, Supernatural. Meta, formerly known as Facebook, is already a key player at each level of the virtual reality sector. The company's virtual reality empire includes the top-selling device, a leading app store, 7 of the most successful developers, and one of the best-selling apps of all time. The agency alleges that Meta and Zuckerberg are planning to expand Meta's virtual reality empire with this attempt to illegally acquire a dedicated fitness app that proves the value of virtual reality to its users. So, again, especially in the critical opinion articles that I presented at the beginning, things like this were a big focus. So I think that this particular case study is worth digging into a bit further. Instead of competing on the merits, Meta is trying to buy its way to the top. The FTC Bureau of Competition Deputy Director John Newman said, Meta already owns a best-selling virtual reality fitness app, and it had the capabilities to compete even more closely within's popular Supernatural app. But Meta chose to buy the market position instead of earning it on its merits. This is an illegal acquisition, and we will pursue all appropriate relief. The virtual reality industry offers a uniquely immense digital experience and is categorized by a high degree of growth and innovation. Software and studio companies develop virtual reality apps that run on headsets and are distributed in online app stores. These apps run the gamut of genres from rhythm games to esports to creation and exploration and more. Meta, the global technology behemoth that owns Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp, is also the largest provider of virtual reality devices, and is also a leading provider of apps in the United States. The complaint alleges that under the leadership of Zuckerberg, the company began its campaign to conquer the virtual reality with the acquisition of headset manufacturer Oculus VR Inc. Fueled by the popularity of its top-selling Quest headsets, Meta's Quest Store has become a leading US app platform with more than 400 apps available for download. In a publicly reported email to executives, Zuckerberg said that it was critical for the company to also be completely ubiquitous in killer apps, which are apps that prove the value of the underlying technology. As a part of its app expansion, Meta purchased 7 of the most successful virtual reality development studios and now has one of the largest first-party virtual reality content catalogs in the world. The acquisition of Beat Games studio gave Meta control of the wildly popular app Beat Saber. Within Unlimited is an independent virtual reality development studio that was designed and built Supernatural, a popular app in the dedicated fitness virtual reality app market. Supernatural offers a variety of high-quality workouts set to music, including tracks from A-list artists, and virtually located in striking photorealistic locales. The agency's complaint notes that, according to Within's co-founder and CEO, fitness is the killer use case for VR. The complaint alleges that Meta is a potential entrant into the virtual reality dedicated fitness app market, and with the required resources and a reasonable probability of building its own virtual reality app to compete in the space. But instead of entering, it chose to buy Supernatural. Meta's independent entry would increase consumer choice, increase innovation, spur additional competition to attract the best employees, and yield other competitive benefits. Meta's acquisition of Within, on the other hand, would eliminate the prospect of such entry, dampening future innovation and competitive rivalry. The complaint further alleges that the mere possibility of Meta's entry has likely influenced competition within the virtual reality dedicated fitness app market. If Meta is allowed to buy Within, that competitive pressure will slacken. This lessening of competition violates the antitrust laws, according to the complaint. I don't know, man. I think that's a reasonable case to be made. I don't think that is flimsy at best, as some of our previous commenters have said. But, man, I've got a lot of these to share, so I need to move on. Okay, so this one is a bit on data, but also a bit on Amazon. So let's look at some of the bullet points here. The FTC is diving deeper into Amazon's proposed acquisitions of One Medical and iRobot. Given Chair Lina Khan's plans to fundamentally remake the agency and push back on the power of major companies, the reviews signal pending clashes that go beyond the mere question of whether the transactions violate antitrust law. And the Commission's Democrats could be giving hints about those issues as soon as a rulemaking session on Thursday. I really need to find out what Thursday exactly that is, because that has come up in a lot of these. September 7th. So yesterday, I guess. Fuck. Oh man, now I need to look that up. So from the looks of it, I missed this. It definitely was yesterday, from the day that I am recording this. And there was an opportunity for public comment. That being said, they were asking for feedback on this, which actually has been published, and I think I can get back to in a second. But they even had like 2 minutes of public comment, which would have been cool, except that I hadn't read this, so I wouldn't really know what I was commenting on. But also, I would have had to have signed up by then. But this would have been a cool thing to have known in advance, a la the same way that Matt Stoller had advertised the last opportunity for public comment. Can I see the comments? Anyone? Maybe it's still open? It just happened. So you know what? We will see. We will see. This video might be about to get an impromptu mid-editing call to action. Holy shit. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 3, 4. That almost looked fake. Holy crap. That is a lot. And we have until the 21st of next month. So, yeah. Okay. Definitely doing this, but I gotta get back to editing this video. And I also definitely recommend that you do too. This is my call to action. The FTC is seeking comment on a wide range of concerns about commercial surveillance practices. For example, some companies fail to adequately secure the vast troves of consumer data they collect, putting that information at risk for hackers or data thieves. There is a growing body of evidence that some surveillance-based services may be addictive to children and lead to a whole wide variety of mental health and social harms. anything about data collection, data privacy, some of the big issues that we've been talking about in this video so far, because we're about to get into more specific stuff in the video, but we've really been focusing on that type of stuff so far. So if you are interested in this, I will make sure to get you a link to the public comment section, and maybe I will do a video looking into, did I do this? I'm just curious, like, what, just this comment. An extra measure of protection and privacy seem wonderful and are needed. However, we have come so far with exposure of personal information and easy access to most any revealing fact that we want. How then can this help us moving forward? What can be supportive. I'm not sure I understand exactly what she was saying. Let's see if Mike Schwartz made more sense. The US needs something like the European GDPR if it's serious in caring about its residents' privacy and well-being. If it wants to keep up with the expectations and standards of living with the rest of the developed world without added privacy, we've proven that we're willing to undercut our democracy. Okay, Mike, yeah. Jeez. And so many already. This is amazing. The FTC is investigating Amazon's proposed deal for the boutique primary healthcare provider, and the agency has started to look into the e-commerce giant's proposed purchase of the Roomba maker, as per Politico. The latter is likely to look at how the data that iRobot's products vacuum up as they zoom around homes could give Amazon an unfair leg up over rival retailers, the report said, which is not something that I had considered, but wow, your iRobot products, Roomba products, whatever, however you say that, are spying on you, or at least definitely will be if Amazon gets a hold of them. Because, yeah, that definitely fits into a lot of their other purchases and the granular data that they seem to be trying to get about people's houses. So here's a little bit more about the $4 billion purchase. Amazon announced plans in July to buy One Medical, a concierge-type medical service with roughly 190 medical offices in 25 markets. Last week, the e-commerce giant said it would shutter its own hybrid virtual in-home care service called Amazon Care, a One Medical competitor, because it wasn't meeting customers' needs. So, okay, so let's look at this through the framework that the FTC is looking at the Meta acquisition of Within. At least in this case, Amazon did try to compete in that market by creating Amazon Care. That encouraged competition, that encouraged all the things that the FTC mentions. But ultimately, because they failed, they decided that instead of creating a great product or trying to improve their own service, which was, by their own admission, lackluster, they're just going to buy the company that's doing it better, because they have enough money that no matter who wins, they win, because they can afford to buy the winners. The One Medical deal, the first to be announced under CEO Andy Jassy, was another push into healthcare for Amazon following its acquisition of online pharmacy PillPack for $750 million in 2018. Groups calling for stricter antitrust regulations quickly urged the FTC to block the merger, arguing that it would further expand the company's massive market power. An Amazon spokesperson declined to comment. Nice. The FTC has already been investigating the sign-up and cancellation practices of Amazon Prime and has issued civil subpoenas in that case. Neat. Last year, the company unsuccessfully that FTC Chair Lina Khan step aside from separate antitrust investigations into its business, arguing she would be biased. Khan was a notable critic of Seattle-based Amazon and other big tech companies prior to assuming the chairmanship. As a Yale law student in 2017, she wrote an influential study titled Amazon's Antitrust Paradox. I guess, holy shit, I'm gonna read Lena Collins college study. Shit. Well, that might be a whole nother video. I might as well read the abstract, though, while I'm here. Amazon is a titan of 21st century commerce. In addition to being a retailer, it's now also a marketing platform, a delivery and logistics network, a payment service, a credit lender, an auction house, a major book publisher, a producer of television and films, a fashion designer, a hardware manufacturer, and a leading host of cloud server space. Although Amazon has clocked staggering growth, it generates meager profits, choosing to price below cost and expand widely instead. Through this strategy, the company has positioned itself at the center of e-commerce and now serves as essential infrastructure for a host of other businesses that depend upon it. Elements of the firm's structure and conduct pose anti-competitive concerns, yet it has escaped antitrust scrutiny. And actually, I want to back up here because I think this particular sentence, these two sentences are actually really important to understanding. I think it was this guy. Yeah, this guy. Talking about without unduly burdening legitimate business activity. So if you kind of take that as a hard line, then you would never be able to, and that hard line is why Amazon has escaped antitrust scrutiny. Because through this strategy, the company has positioned itself at the center of e-commerce and now serves as essential infrastructure for a host of other businesses that depend upon it. Therefore, there is no way to affect Amazon or rein it in that might not be detrimental to other companies that depend upon them. They've integrated themselves into the system like a cancer. And essentially, that previous standard wouldn't allow us to use radiation treatments to try to get rid of that cancer. If that's kind of how you want to look at it. In that it may cause some damage to the body during the treatments, and maybe, theoretically, we might imagine some better and more perfect way to get rid of the cancer. But for right now, that pain is really the best way to make the overall body actually healthier. Anyways, This note argues that the current framework in antitrust, specifically its pegging competition to consumer welfare, defined as short-term price effects, is unequipped to capture the architecture of market power in the modern economy. Totally agree with that, yeah. We cannot cognize the potential harms to competition posed by Amazon's dominance if we measure competition primarily through price and output. Specifically, current doctrine underappreciates the risk of predatory pricing and how integration across distinct business lines may prove anti-competitive. These concerns are heightened in the context of online platforms for two reasons. First, the economics of platform markets create incentives for a company to pursue growth over profits, a strategy that investors have rewarded. Under these conditions, predatory pricing becomes highly rational, even as existing doctrine treats it as irrational and therefore implausible. Second, because online platforms serve as critical intermediaries, integrating across business lines positions these platforms to control the essential infrastructure on which their rivals depend. This dual role enables a platform to exploit information collected on companies using its services to undermine them as competitors. This note maps out the facets of Amazon's dominance. Doing so enables us to make sense of its business strategy, illuminates anti-competitive aspects of Amazon's structure and conduct, and underscores deficiencies in current doctrine. The note closes by considering two potential regimes for addressing Amazon's power: restoring traditional antitrust and competition policy principles, or applying common carrier obligations and duties. Ooh, that is actually I didn't expect the second one there, but that actually makes a lot of sense for them. Okay, so now let's talk about Walmart. Walmart filed a motion on Monday to dismiss a Federal Trade Commission lawsuit that accuses the nation's largest retailer of allowing its money transfer services to be used by scam artists. This motion calls the FTC's June lawsuit an egregious instance of agency overreach. The FTC alleges in its lawsuit that for years, Walmart failed to properly secure the money transfer services offered at its stores, stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from customers. The agency said Walmart didn't properly train its employees, failed to alert customers, and used procedures that allowed fraudsters to cash out at its stores. The FTC had asked the court to order Walmart to return the money to consumers and impose civil penalties on the company. In a 41-page document filed in the U.S. District Court, yada yada, Walmart laid out a number of what it called legally flawed claims, including the agency lacked constitutional valid authority to sue for money or injunctive relief. It said that the FTC is trying to hold Walmart liable for the criminal actions of completely unrelated third-party fraudsters, even as Walmart has embraced a number of steps to stop such scamming. Clearly not enough, though. Moving on from Walmart, here's a fun one. The Federal Trade Commission in 6 states have filed suit against Roomster Corp. and 2 corporate executives, accusing the residential rental listing platform of using fake reviews and unverified listing to generate tens of millions of dollars in business. According to the complaint, these practices often occur at the expense of vulnerable customers who rely on Roomster to find safe, low-cost housing within expensive housing markets. The lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York alleges that Roomsters violated the FTC Act and various state consumer protection laws by falsely representing that Roomster's reviews were truthful and written by legitimate users of Roomster services, and by misrepresenting Roomster's listings as verified, authentic, and even available to rent. Jesus fucking Christ. The complaint also names an individual doing business as AppWin, who is alleged to have provided most of the fake reviews on the Roomster platform. Over a 4-year period, Roomster is said to have purchased over 20,000 4- and 5-star reviews from AppWin. AppWin also used more than 2,500 fake iTunes and Gmail accounts to create fake reviews on Roomster's mobile apps to drive customers to Roomster. Which, honestly, there's a lot of companies doing this, and I wish they'd crack down on more of them. So, good work. Woo! $62 million proposed settlement. Man, this is a big one. Okay, last month, the FTC announced that it reached a $62 million proposed settlement with Open Door Labs related to the Commission's investigation of the company's representations in advertising to prospective home sellers. Opendoor is an online real estate business in the iBuying or instant buying space. iBuying companies use algorithms to determine a home's value and make instant offers to consumers, allowing them to purchase homes directly from consumer sellers or as an alternative to traditional sales through a broker. iBuying companies often tout their offering as a simpler, more convenient alternative to traditional home sales. However, according to the FTC complaint, Opendoor misrepresented to prospective home sellers that they would make more money from selling their homes on Opendoor than selling in the open market, when in actuality, the FTC maintains that most home sellers who used Opendoor services made thousands of dollars less than they would if they had sold through traditional channels. The FTC alleged Opendoor advertised they would save consumers money by providing market value offers and reducing transaction costs. For example, the FTC's complaint cited charts that Opendoor's marketing materials had purported to compare customers' net proceeds from selling on Opendoor versus selling on the open market. The agency alleged that these representations were deceptive because Opendoor's offers were, on average, consistently significantly below market value. Additionally, according to the FTC, Opendoor's costs were higher than those of traditional sales because it requires consumers to pay for repairs that they would not have had to have made otherwise. Opendoor further misled consumers, according to the FTC, by overstating the cost of traditional sales. Welp. Rip to them. Okay, this guy's interesting. Okay, so he wants to complain about how much money the FTC claims that one of its decisions would save consumers. That is the core of his argument, okay? This Mr. Shit-Eating Grin right here, okay? I'm glad he put his picture on this one. Just to put a face with this douchebaggery. The FTC published a proposed rule with new standards for automobile dealerships. This is notable for two reasons: the rule itself and the fact that the agency, primarily known for its enforcement actions, published such a significant rule at all. Interesting. You sound a little bit salty there, Doug. So, here's the thing. What Mr. Doug Holtz-Eakin here is making a case of is that it won't actually provide that much money, and that their accounting is wrong here. But regardless of whether or not their accounting is wrong, I want you to understand exactly what he's rallying against. The key parts of the proposed rule's potential new regulatory standards include requiring dealers, whether acting directly or indirectly, to refrain from making misrepresentations, provide for material disclosures at key points in the transaction, refrain from the sale of deceptive or unfair add-on products, and require the retention of dealers' advertisements and consumer transaction documents. Enshrining those provisions into relevant regulatory code would allow the FTC to utilize its authority under Section 19 of the FTC Act to bring legal action against any person, partnership, or corporation in the automobile dealer industry that violates any rule under the FTC Act respecting unfair or deceptive acts or practices. And again, the argument presented in this fairly short article by the president of the American Action Forum. Let's find out something about him. Hold on. Former director of the Congressional Budget Office. Proudly leads the center-right on economic, domestic, and Yep. It combines time analysis and modern communication strategies to promote innovative free market solutions to build a stronger, more prosperous future. Okay. Cool. So let's go back to his article. Let's just think about that bias as we think about whether or not you would appreciate these things being like, would you not appreciate car dealerships being accountable in this way? Whether or not it would save consumers $31 billion, I think is fucking beside the point. I think enshrining this into law is important, and that Douglas Holtz-Eakin is a fucking shill. Federal Trade Commission returns more than $9.7 million to consumers harmed by Lending Club's deceptive hidden fees. Woo! Let's learn more about this one, shall we? The Federal Trade Commission is sending payments totaling more than $9.7 million to about 62,000 consumers who were charged hidden fees by Lending Club Corporation. These payments are the result of a claims process conducted by the FTC in February of 2022. It's the second distribution of funds in this matter and brings the total amount refunded to consumers to more than $17.6 million. The FTC sued Lending Club in April 2018, charging that the company falsely promised loan applicants that they would receive specific loan amounts with no hidden fees, when in reality the company deducted hundreds or even thousands of dollars in hidden upfront fees from the loans. The FTC also alleged that Lending Club told customers that they were approved for loans when they were not, which delayed applicants from seeking loans elsewhere and took money from consumers' bank accounts without authorization. Lending Club agreed to a settlement in July of 2021 that bars them from making misrepresentations to loan applicants and requires that the company clearly and conspicuously disclose the amounts of any fees and the total amount of funds that borrowers will receive. Get 'em! Here's another similar one. The Federal Trade Commission is ordering Credit Karma to pay its users $3 million after pushing false pre-approved credit cards on consumers and harming their credit scores. Nearly 1/3 of users who applied for credit cards labeled as pre-approved by Credit Karma, a credit monitoring company, were subsequently denied following a credit check. According to a complaint filed by the FTC, the marketing efforts wasted consumers' time and had a negative impact on their credit scores. Marketing campaigns designed to trick people into taking specific actions, like applying for a credit card, an individual is allegedly pre-approved for, are known as dark patterns. According to a news release, the FTC is cracking down on predatory practices that harm consumers and pollute online commerce. Which, sounds great. The FTC complaint alleges that at least between February 2008 and April 2021, Credit Karma violated the FTC Act by promoting products that consumers were either pre-approved for or had 90% odds of approval for, but ultimately were unqualified. FTC is returning more than $1.9 million to consumers nationwide who purchased Hubble contact lenses without properly obtained or verified prescriptions. This one is actually kind of an interesting one because I think that there's probably a lot more companies that are... It really makes me take a lot of things into consideration, honestly. But this is an interesting bait and switch story. The Federal Trade Commission is sending payments totaling more than $1.9 million to over 30,000 consumers nationwide who bought Hubble brand contact lenses from Vision Path Inc. The FTC alleges that the company substituted its own brand of lenses for those prescribed by the customer's eye doctor, in violation of the contact lens rule, and violated the FTC Act by deceiving customers about whether or not their doctors had approved the substitution, among other things. The average refund amount is $63. The FTC's June 2022 complaint against Vision Path alleged that the company violated the contact lens rule in several ways, including failing to obtain prescriptions and properly verify prescription information, and by substituting Hubble lenses for those who were actually prescribed to customers. The FTC also alleged the company violated the FTC Act when it promised customers it had properly verified their lenses with their eye doctors, when it failed to disclose that many reviews of Hubble lenses were written by reviewers who were compensated for their reviews, and in at least one case by one of its own executives. You fucking idiot. Good God. Oh, man. So, Illumina apparently beat the FTC in a major antitrust case. Okay, let's go. Illumina racks up win in FTC antitrust case over Grail acquisition. San Diego's Illumina won a legal battle Thursday with U.S. antitrust regulators who sought to derail last year's $7.1 billion acquisition of Grail, a provider of blood tests that can pinpoint dozens of specific types of cancer before symptoms arise. An administrative judge ruled that the vertical merger between Illumina and Grail did not violate competition laws in a challenge brought by the U.S. FTC. Details of the ruling weren't available because the full text hasn't been made available to the public yet. This is a couple days ago, so it probably still wouldn't be. According to an 18-day trial and sharply written court filings, both sides argued that their respective positions would save lives. Getting close to the end here, folks. FTC sues heated mattress pads marketer Electrowarmth for falsely claiming that Chinese products are made in the USA. After having read this one, that's an amazing title because it really describes the entire problem. There you go. That one's pretty self-explanatory, honestly. Oh! And that was the last one. Wow. Yeah, so I don't know how long this is going to be edited out. I don't know how much sense it's going to make, but holy crap. I think we all just learned a lot about the Federal Trade Commission, and especially Lena Khan, who, I want to say, like, she's definitely the head. She is definitely, like, the mascot of all these changes. And I think that she is a big, integral part in why these changes are happening. But there are a lot of other people who support her. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways... If you showed up for this extra long, extra credit session, I really appreciate you. I'm glad you were here. I guess at some point I'm going to finish fucking reading this. Oh my god. This is big. But it is really interesting, and it would probably be really helpful for me in getting into Lena Khan's headspace and like what she plans to do with the FTC. I think this actually would be really interesting, and it's been quite a while ago, actually. Let's see what Jennifer thinks. Oh man, this is big. Okay. Most people will be coming at this problem from a digital angle. I would like to back up the analog world of direct postal mail. My name is Jennifer Mail, and I am an anti-junk mail Jennifer Mail. God, I'm Jennifer Bale and I'm an anti-junk mail advocate. It is so difficult to opt out of mailing lists. Yes, I had to create a blog to teach people how to do it. Link. There is an app, Paper Karma, that helps people stop junk mail. Neither of these things should exist, though. Direct marketers share and sell people's data so much that a relative of mine received 130 pieces of mail weekly. This included 16 mail pieces from one charity every week. Each mail piece represented a different mailing list she was on. The greedy charity didn't care about clean data and making sure that she was only sent one mail piece. They only cared about the check that she would send for each mail piece she got from them. The Association of National Advertisers DMA Choice program is a joke. It only stops direct mail from people that you have never had a transaction with, and mailing lists can easily be a non-DMA choice complaint. Look up list, blah, 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 Make America Great mailing list on Nextmark. You can clearly see the right-hand side of the page that the list is whatever. If you sent money to Ben Carson, the rest of the conservative charity world is feasting on you and your mailbox. Well, yeah. The other data nightmare I would like to talk about is removing a dead person from mailing lists. The way you have to do it now is evil. It is a patchwork of unofficial things you can do. You need a change of address card with dead on it to your local post office and hope your mail carrier remembers not to deliver the mail for a dead relative. And look, it's been years and I still get mail from my dad, like multiple places, oddly enough. So I feel this. I still get mail. This woman, Miss Jennifer Bale. I still get mail for a person who died 8 years ago. The main reason that the deceased do not mail list can cost hundreds of dollars to buy. The main reason is that the deceased do not mail list can cost hundreds of dollars to buy. Huh. That seems like it should be given out for free. What I would like to see is a one-stop shop for opting out of all data brokers. Ooh, I like her. The opt-out pre-screen program is a good model to start with. We need to end DMA compliant and non-DMA compliant mailing lists. All lists should comply with people wanting to opt out of direct mail. There also needs to be a one-stop shop for stopping mail for the deceased. There has to be a way for the post office to make a name and address combo non-deliverable. I live in California and I would love... what about people who have the same name, like, just aren't creative, name their kids, like... Are they going to recognize the June? I don't know. It probably is worth being addressed. For sure. Anyways. There needs to be a way for the pace... Yeah. I grew up in California. I love the changes of the California Consumer Privacy Act has made to data privacy. If that program could go national, it would be a very good thing for consumers. I have attached 2 photos so people can see what happens when data is weaponized and starts attacking you. The first photo is the living room. The first photo is of the living room of a person who got 130 mail pieces in a week. Second is of 16 sent in 1 week. That was a good comment. So as you can see, you know, they're not all essays on trade policy. Some of them are. And many of them are just real people giving their opinions on how this affects their lives. So regardless of if you can leave a long Jennifer Bell essay on trade policy and telecommunications policy and mailing the dead, you still should, just to be among the people who had important questions to ask. And apparently you can also submit anonymously. Interesting. Okay. If you appreciated this, I'm going to be putting some links on the screen to where you can help out the channel and send me some support for spending my... Oh my god. I was going to say spending my morning making this video for you, but actually it looks like I've been spending my afternoon making this video for you. Whew, that means I gotta get to the gym. Damn, it's getting late. All right, y'all. You heard it. I got to get out of here. I got to put some sweats on and get to the gym. So I will see you later. Have fun, Internet.